and welcome to Robert's Tech. In this video I'm going to cover some details of the construction of this rover. This was the subject of a 5-part series. If you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch those. I'm going to talk about different things I did to put this together. Right now the state of the robot is at the point where I've added my AI camera up front, and at the moment I'm still trying to get it to all work. I keep having trouble with it dropping out. It won't continuously track the object. So here's the camera here, and at the moment it is looking at that little ball there. And I do have it set up so that if I turn it to one side here, it does try and run the motors to get it back the other way. If I turn it this way, the motors go the opposite direction. So it is tracking side to side, and if it's looking straight at it, it'll stop. The motors are going on and off because it's jumping in and out of my control loop, so that remains to be corrected. But I have a separate loop that runs when it sees the ball. So the idea is that, as you've seen in previous videos, it'll be navigating around the room using all these sensors. And if the ball comes into view, then it will jump out of that loop and into a while loop, and in that while loop the only thing that operates is the camera with the motors, and it'll try and go toward the ball and steer toward the ball, and that's the idea. So it's sort of partially working, so I got a lot of work left to do to make that all happen. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a detail on my arm. Now this arm was constructed from 2 little kits that I bought, and the kit comes with the servo and these 2 metal brackets. Now I've put 2 of them together to give me an arm that moves up and down, and with the 2 joints I can keep the claw parallel to the surface, and so that was the idea, is I want to be able to raise it and lower it and keep it parallel, and that works out fine. Now I don't have any left and right servos, but I'm using the wheels to achieve that, so I can pivot the robot back and forth, and that gives me a left and right. I'm not worried about tilting the jaw in this particular application, so it makes a really easy to program arm. It's very strong actually, and that leads me to my first detail that I want to discuss. The first time I tested this arm, I ran the arm downward and jammed the claw into the ground, and it literally just snapped right off. It's a plastic claw. I mean, it works pretty well, but it has these plastic mounts, and they just broke right off. So I did manage to save it. You can maybe see there's a little crack here. I cut off the little mount that it had, and I drilled and tapped these holes so I could put these threaded screws through there, and I remounted it. So then after that I had to come up with a way to make sure it didn't happen again. So what I've done is I've got a little double hinge in here, and if it ever does ram the claw back into the ground, it'll just release. So it easily just comes up, but when it tries to lift something, it actually is still, well, if the power were on. Let's turn the power on. Well, if the power were on, then it would resist me pushing it down. So, I mean, the power's on, but the power to the arms is not on. So that's a separate activation that I would have to do. There's a button on the back over here. Let's push that button, and things will come on. Of course, my motors will start then. But now if I push down the arm, it's going to resist being pushed, and just decided it was going to come up. So yeah, but you see it won't push down, but if something were to get under it, it would just break away like that. So that was the idea, that was the detail I wanted to show you. And it works quite well actually. You can also see how I mounted the AI camera up front while this thing is going crazy. Let's shut all that off. Hit the reset there, and that kills the relays that power all the motors. So that was a detail, and it has worked out really well. The next thing I'm going to show you are these little connectors that I make. This one plugs into the ultrasonic sensor, and then also these screw terminal type connectors that you can unplug very easily. So you can see how this one has wires on it, and then you just plug it in, and it makes for a nice simple connection. I'm going to show you how I make those.